I just freeze every time you see through me, and it's all over you. Electric Bluey. I hadn't done a song for a while.
It
like
has
when
been
you
a
start
bit.
and there's Blue in the original song, and then I change it to Bluey.
Yep.
And I like that I had to change the U to a UE because it makes it sillier.
Bluey.
All I know about that song is it's by the Australian band Icehouse, formerly Flowers.
Yep.
And it plays in shopping centres all the time.
Sign of a good anthem, isn't it? Right up there with John Farnham and Jimmy Barnes.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
You better believe it.
From that, you know it just must be cheap. It's cheap to play that one.
The license rights are not that expensive.
This episode of the Hammerbun Project is called Lions and Tigers and Bears. Adoy!
But I assure you, there's nothing electric about the apparatus used in this episode. But we'll get to that. What are we doing? Well, we're talking about Bluey. Who are we? I'm Brendan.
This is Frank.
And this is Marty.
And together, we are the Hammerbun Project gentlemen. And we talk about Bluey.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
This episode of Bluey is called Typewriter.
Ding. Ding. Stop.
I love this episode.
Yeah.
It's
the Terriers, isn't it, Frank?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to bury the lead, but it's the Terriers.
We know you by now, Frank.
It's just beautiful.
Mhm.
They're the best. But even we'll get to the Terriers in a second.
It's the adventure of season 2, I think. You
Yeah,
know, like
you're right.
yeah.
We are talking season 2. This is deep in season 2, episode 49, I believe. So yeah, this is very much on their game with what they're doing here, and this is another one of those bit like adventure, which I don't think we've covered yet on this show.
No, we haven't. So maybe I should get the old.
Damn. Okay, that's not off to a good start here.
No, I mean I said it first. I said it's the adventure of season 2,
so
and
you're
that's what I
saying
meant.
I can lead you, and you can have yourself with the rolled
I
up
think we
newspaper?
do it at the same time.
Okay, that's fair.
Sort of like a high five.
with rolled up newspaper.
Well, hang on, no, then that's them hitting each other and we don't get the punishment. We'll figure it out. But we'll figure it out after we do the very important thing and throw it to our main man, Marty. Bare bones, please.
Usually what I have to do in this bit is, come up with some ridiculous, over-the-top thing that this is, inverted commas, an obvious homage to.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an homage to something pretty clearly. Did you guys get it? Is it fairly obvious or?
There were a couple in my brain.
Okay.
Were you gonna? Can I?
Wizard of Oz.
Well, my
don't
clue
cut you
to
off.
listeners, if you haven't figured it out, is
Yeah.
we're off to see Calypso.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, everybody. That's what I was going to say. In fact, I'll edit it back in. Wizard of Oz. And I'll put that in seamlessly before so it
it's
looks
really,
like I
pretty
guessed.
clearly referencing it. Like
Yeah,
the music does the da-da-da-da-da-da. It's in a slightly different
100%.
arrangement, but it's there, and there's a couple of lines in there that just make you go twig, especially when Bluey says, why don't you come too and you'll see if Calypso can help you as well.
Yeah.
But the thing that got me that it was really nice, getting all the way to the end of the episode immediately, of course, but the typewriters behind that little
the curtain.
Oh my
it's
God.
behind the curtain, and the curtain
Wow,
is
wow,
green,
wow.
so it's the same color as and
Jeez.
for anybody listening at home, there's a classic who hasn't doesn't remember it potentially as well as we do. There's a classic sequence where it's like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, so it's the guy pretending
Big
to
green
be
curtain?
the all-powerful Oz, and he's behind a green curtain.
Oh,
so
man.
that's just like a
Pay no
nice
attention to
little
the man
nod.
behind the But it just goes to show that, that seems so obvious to me now. But with this show, you get, because everything means more than one thing.
Yeah.
I saw the typewriter as, I don't want to ruin, I imagine you've still got more bare bones to go through there, Marty.
No, not really.
No, that was not-
Ultimately,
no. Okay, so
ultimately, well, I can do my actual bit where I actually go,
Do
what
the actual
episode's
bit, and
meant
then
to be
because
about.
what I'm going to say is in there, I'm
The
sure.
listeners want to hear
So
it.
it's an episode in which they're hanging out in school. Bluey seemingly loses the typewriter. The typewriter disappears that she was playing with. So she goes on an adventure and picks up a couple of her other classmates along the way to try and go see Calypso to resolve this problem. Ultimately, they find out that they have the things that they need all by themselves, very a la Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
They don't need to be gifted with it. They have it themselves all
Had it
along.
all along.
As if it were
Yeah.
in a chest that they were sitting on by the side of the road.
And that's what I mean, like, because you're like, oh, that's a callback to the story that Calypso was telling about how what they needed was in the chest that they were sitting on the whole time. And you see that and you think, oh, that's clever. And then you I completely miss the fact that it's behind a green curtain, like the Wizard of Oz.
I do like the part how Bluey is, if we're going with his Wizard of Oz motif, I don't know if that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, why not?
That she is basically the Dorothy character. She's, do you want to come with me?
Yeah.
Maybe this person at the end of our journey can solve all your problems.
Yeah.
And then much like the original, the problems are largely solved before they basically get to where they're going.
Yeah.
But that's actually because of Bluey, like her explanation to Winton as to, just go ask him a question. What question? Any question. Is he gluten-free? And then just Winton's self-actualization in that moment where he goes, is that why people are afraid of me? And Bluey's just not even making eye contact with him, just goes, yeah, probably. Like she just, it's see a spade, call it a spade type thing.
Yeah,
and it's just brilliant self-awareness by her and Winton's.
It's a great little sequence, isn't it? Because the music starts and stops. We just had a sneaky watch through before, and all I could hear was the sound. And you can just hear when he's like, oh, okay. And the music starts up again, and he's like, wait. And then the music
what
stops.
Did you say?
And you need a little bit more each time.
Yeah, this is becoming somewhat of an unintended tradition, but I should let the listeners in on it because Frank or I might have not maybe done our homework in episodes gone by, we're like, oh, guys, do you mind? I know we're already, because of course Marty is in Sydney and we're in Adelaide, and so Marty's joining us electronically, and so we kind of go, let's just watch it quickly. But of course, Frank and I can watch it, but Marty can't really watch it with it. I mean, there's probably a way to do it, but I mean, that takes extra time that we've already wasted by not doing our homework.
And it's much more fun.
It's much more fun because what we do is we have a split screen with the episode we're talking about on one side just to give it a final run through. And then Marty, like the first time we did it, the Bluey episode took up the main page and Marty was a little window, but we've since learned we divide the screen evenly between the entertaining Australian children's television program and Martin's completely sightless completely unaccompanied, because you can't see it, reenactment
of the episode based purely on the sound.
Beauty.
And because lag is a thing over the internet, the timing, Marty almost factors in that. And so when he does his, like a shocked face, depending on what happens on the episode, the timing's actually pretty spot on.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's pretty good. It's quite the adventure, not unlike this episode. I love just in that bit, that little exchange between Bluey and Winton. I imagine the sound recordists just have so much fun with the kids and their line deliveries and the takes they do, because I could listen to that delivery from Bluey over and over. Like, I ask him if he's gluten-free. And she kind of falls off after gluten-free. Like, it doesn't quite get it. It's the kind of vocal take that you could only get if you're having fun and you know what to look for. What a magical world being part of the making of this show must be.
I think this must have been one of the earlier episodes that I saw, because I remember laughing out loud at that joke, at the gluten-free thing. Because I was still getting my head into how switched on it was, and just I wasn't anticipating those sorts of jokes, so that one caught me off guard. So I have a good memory of that particular one.
Well, I'm sorry, if you want to talk jokes, now we have to talk about our friends the Terriers. My friends the Terriers.
You've been very patient, Frank.
I waited a whole 3 minutes for this, okay? They are just absolutely adorable, and it's the bickering amongst themselves, which becomes a trope sort of later on going forward. It's the for Scotland, because they're Scottish Terriers.
For Scotland. Oh, such a good line. And then they come,
the English are approaching. I can only imagine how this gets translated into territories like Scotland. I'm not sure if they would change that at all. I'm not sure.
A lot of them would probably like it.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the bickering, I'm going to go, into the forest after Snickers. How come you get to do it? because you got to sit in a boot seat, even though I said boot seat. Like, their justification is something to do with the car.
Yeah, and the games that those brothers must play.
Yeah.
And then like that one's actually not bad. It's kind of like you fight with your brother and sister about who gets to sit in what seat, right? Before there's a clear order established, or there's a favourite seat that you would argue over. The follow-up one, though, where it's like, I said, you got to sit closest to the tap, even though I said, close tap.
After we got home from Taekwondo.
From
Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, no. And that's where you sit there and go, sit close to what tap? There's a tap in the car? What is it? I don't understand how this game works, but I don't care.
Those little details of kids, like, of course, after we're coming home from jiu-jitsu, like, it's such an unnecessary detail, but it situates so much of kids at that age and the kind of things that parents have to run around taking their kids to
Can
gymnastics.
Can you imagine those terriers doing jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu and little hockey and all
I want an episode, Joe Brum, if you're listening, I want an episode titled Jiu-Jitsu, and it's just the terriers.
Oh, man.
Doing jiu-jitsu and just the arguments.
I'm on board with that.
Well, actually,
you don't even have to broadcast it. Just send it straight to Frank.
Send it straight to me. Episode for one, yeah. Well, there's an episode where we see, and I'm not going to name it for fear of the rolled up newspaper, but is there not an episode where we see Bluey in a karate outfit?
Yeah, there is. I happened to see it today, and I was like, there's an interesting.
Maybe that's her jiu-jitsu outfit.
Maybe she does jiu-jitsu with
you see, Joe, it writes itself.
Wait, we haven't mentioned Snickers, or only very briefly.
He's so good.
Probably one of my favorite bits of this episode, apart from, of course, the sausage roll.
So epic.
Which is like, the absolute crescendo of the episode.
Yeah.
It's a great thing of like, oh no, they've almost caught us, and then there's this thing that comes back around because we've already been told that Snickers is going to go away and do what.
The thing.
Yeah, so that's great. But I love how it turns into a samurai film when they go into
so good. And the music during that bit. It just turns on a dime and it's like this Eastern film soundtrack. Like with a marimba, I imagine it would be like some kind of tuned percussion because it just sounds like bamboo, like a massive bamboo marimba, just to match the trees that he's hiding in.
So it becomes this sort of ninja scenario where he's running from tree to tree, holding his hat, which is a great detail because his hat would project over the sides. So. Oh, he's a clever lad.
Oh man, Snickers is the bomb.
Oh, Snickers,
and he can't see it.
Being a sausage dog.
The whole to use a Marty term, couplet between like hating that he's like, I hate being a sausage dog. It's the whole episode very much like Wizard of Oz could be said to be a statement on, you've got what you need. You've had what you needed all along. Yeah. And you went on this quest to see, like Calypso's story, even though you might not have known that you had it in the chest, there you were, there it was. And even though Snickers might not have known that he loves being a sausage dog, he does love being a sausage dog when it might seem tricky because he can't sit upright and it takes him a little longer to learn how to sit. Why?
Because he's longer?
Because he's a little longer. But Bluey had what she needed all along to be able to pretend to write a story. She didn't really need. Sometimes you don't need the things you think you need.
And
if you got it inside you, I don't know.
And in that case, it was Winton who gave Bluey the tool that she was after.
Imagination.
But I don't have a shield. We use this one.
Yeah.
Ting.
Yeah.
Or what's the noise? So there's the ping ping of the arrows, and then it's the shield.
Padoing.
Doing.
Yeah, and I'm padoinging them.
We're shooting pretend arrows at you. They're not real ones.
They're pretend real.
Pretend real.
Yeah. Can you please pretend that they're pretend real?
That speaks to me as well, the idea of fluctuating between real and pretend and things being, because that's something with Naomi. Maybe it was more of a stage, less so now, but you give her some water in a cup. She's like, no, I want real water. I'm like, okay, there's so many things that are pretend and you fake things and you fake. But like real water then oh, you want cold water. Oh, okay. Like
right.
fridge water like Dad's having. Okay, all right. And then at some other point you guys like, no, I want real cold water. And you're like, I have no idea what that is.
I got
It's kind
nothing.
of like, it's something that I have, but it doesn't have the properties to which I aspire.
Oh,
So
wow.
could you get me the real one?
How do you win at that game?
You just level up and level up. You just get
The
used
rules
to.
keep changing. You change with them.
That's right. You're like, you end up in this really odd space where you don't know if you're playing or whether things are real, or you just swallow blocks. You just like eating the blocks and eating the soft fake fruit.
Or whether they're now trying to entertain you.
Yeah.
Now Marty's going to go like, oh, I'm thirsty. I might get a drink. Wait, do I get a real drink? What do I get the cold water? Naomi, you're
What
in my
is
head.
real?
Like,
You just end up getting
What
to this
is
very
real anymore?
philosophical state of like, what is real? Is the imagination, is the concept of it real enough for me to
Can't answer that.
padoing?
And Calypso herself, if we're using our, I was about to say Alice in
Motif?
Wonderland, not Alice in Wonderland, motif of the other movie, which name, Exquisite of Oz. I got there eventually. You got it. If we're using that, she is arguably the man behind the curtain, to use that phrase. And she doesn't really do a lot other than point out the obvious that Bluey hasn't quite realised. You know, oh, that's a nice shield. Ding, ding.
In true
Like,
Calypso style, she does
She's the thread.
only exactly what's needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well put. That's way better than what I said.
Yeah, you know, I try.
It's well, as a pedagogical
Boing, there it is.
Down with that word.
Boo. As a pedagogical technique, it is this idea of like giving people, it is much more meaningful if you have the chance to realize it yourself. So it is just this very soft touch that she has in all these different instances to help people, you know, build up the awareness or like come to the end point themselves.
To use a phrase that I just recently learnt having listened to the Gotta Be Done ladies, instead of being the, what is it? You
learned it really well.
I
obviously.
learned it really well. Hold on. Oh, no. I've got it.
Come on, you get there.
Oh, okay. Instead of being the sage on the stage, you're the guide on the side.
Oh, not bad.
Isn't that
Yeah,
good?
Sage on the stage.
Pretty good.
That's a pretty classic
Who do you
one.
who do you attribute that to?
I don't know. Mary brought it up, but I can't remember what she was
Well, the
referencing.
context, yeah.
Sage on the stage is a pretty widely used sort of thing of when you basically just lecture, you just talk to the crowd.
Yeah.
And just expect people to absorb.
But a side
Rather
guide would give the
guide's an
subject an opportunity to learn for themselves. You know,
Yeah, that's
So
it.
side guide's like an NPC character, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You give the side quest.
Yeah, sure, to use nerd language. Unlike me, who seems to not be able to use language at all.
It's the classic hero helper from Joseph Campbell, if we're talking about adventure stories. Anyone? Anyone?
Is this a
And
Jim
I thought
Henson
you were
thing?
using nerd language before. Aren't typewriters just so cool?
They
I don't
are
know.
so
Did you-
cool.
yeah, like playing with old typewriters. Like, I don't know. This
We had
maybe I can never talk like this without sounding like the old man that I am. But just mechanical things and tangible things. Because my dad collects typewriters. He collects
wow.
like old
Okay.
typewriters, and he's got all these old Remingtons and Olivers and all this stuff. And playing with them as a kid, it's
Any
just,
Olivettis there?
does he have an Olivetti? I think the Olivetti might have been a little bit too new for his tastes.
Oh,
Because the Olivettis were really, really hip in like the 60s. I think.
60s, yeah.
Whereas Dad really loves the old. His favorite is this Oliver that was like early 20th century. I think. I wonder what one is in the episode. You know who has learnt a lot about Dad's typewriters?
Yeah.
My niece Isla.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, all my
They all love Grandpa, right?
Oh yeah, all my nibblings just fans of Grampy and his typewriters. But I'm sure, and it's something we haven't done in a while. You know, I haven't rung
phone
one
a
of my
friend.
nibblings in a while. So if you don't mind,
Yep.
is that all right?
Let's do
I'll
it.
just give Isla a quick call and ask her what she thinks about the typewriter and thing.
Hello, this is Isla.
Hey, Isla Bear, what's cooking?
Oh, hey, Uncle Brendan. Not much, just helping Dad clean the pool so all your listeners can come over for a Christmas swim like you promised last year.
Oh, awesome. Me and the Hammerbarn lads, we were just talking about the Typewriter episode of Bluey.
Oh yes, of course. Not in Kansas anymore. Or Adelaide for that matter. I'm actually trying to pin down the typewriter model that inspired that one that Bluey has at the school.
Yeah, like what sort of era? I know it's a cartoon. It might not be a specific sort of one, so it would be...
Yeah, that's the tricky part. In classic Bluey fashion, they are capturing the essence of something, but purposely not going overboard with the details. My guess would be mid-20th century. Just going for the uniform outer casing. It's certainly not an upstrike, as visible writers were well and truly standard by then.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sure.
That's a hot take.
Can you remember if there are levels both sides of the platen?
No, I didn't see.
I'm sure there isn't. That definitely rules out a grasshopper jump action. I am inclined to think it mostly represents models found between the mid-50s and mid-70s. You have, of course, the Italian Olivetti. There are some good contenders in their catalogue, not to mention it could be a German Olympia of the same era, but while I'm still taking suggestions, the closest that I've found so far comes from the American Smith Corona brand. Something around the model 88 from 1953, with the front-facing RMBS selector.
Well, there you go.
Okay, straight from the experts.
That's why I called you.
Look at that.
In fact, the Smith Corona Company was born when manufacturers L.C. Smith and Corona merged in 1926. And Grampy actually has both an L.C. Smith and a Corona machine from their single days. And get this,
Yeah?
Smith Corona went on to produce a typewriter called, wait for it, the Calypso.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I never would have guessed.
How did you... attention to detail. I love it.
You continue to surprise me, Isla.
Just trying to help an uncle out.
I'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
She's a cool kid.
How do they do it?
I don't know.
There's kids
I
in
don't
these
know.
details these days.
I may never know.
Typewriters for me as well are for a real life thing because we used to have one at home. I think it was like Mum's old one or something like that, and getting to do early story writing and stuff like that and doing it on the typewriter, which was so much fun because it is incredibly tactile, the chuk 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 pa-ching sort of parts of it. And it has to be, I'm going to have to bring up my nerdy typewriter fact.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Do you know this one, Brendan? This one might be...
I might. Ask me in a form of a question and see if I get it right.
Okay. What's the thinking behind the arrangement of a QWERTY keyboard?
I believe that it is separating the commonly used letters in terms of their levers so that letters that often got used weren't arranged in the levers in the fashion that one would smash the other one and get snagged on the levers.
I thought it was that they had less distance to travel. So it's your vowels, for example, that they're relatively central. So the levers don't have as far to go.
Right.
Because they're used more often, which is why Q's on the edge and Z is in the far corner, for example.
Nope.
Oh, come on. It sounded good.
I'm going to go with Brendan. Actually.
I convinced myself.
yeah, you did well. I'm sure you convinced some listeners as well. The version of the fact that I know is that QWERTY is by design inefficient, because if it was too efficient, fast typers would be jamming the arms together.
Yeah.
So, there's other keyboard styles like I think it's Dvorak keyboard, which is actually more efficient if you're just using a computer keyboard, but Qwerty just became the standard. So it's really interesting the way that like the mechanical part of it ultimately impacted.
Yeah, by the time the electric typewriters rendered the need for separating them obsolete, all the typists had already so internalized the Qwerty system and they wanted to keep the status quo. And I say status quo because did you know that you can type the word typewriter on a typewriter using entirely keys from the top row? And the only letters left spell out quo. And so I tried to be tricky.
Did you research that?
See, I knew that from playing with typewriters, and then I remember that quo is left, and so I thought I'd try and sneakily sneak the term status quo. And I probably did it kind of incorrectly, but I thought it might be a bit of fun.
And so I thought I was taking this into a weird, nerdy sidebar. But,
Who's the nerd now?
Oh, you were, and I was threatened by it. And so I had to one-up you.
So you just had to, like, take me out. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Good,
I had to
all right.
improve my nodular nerdance.
I see your weird direction, and I... Buff around Alex transfer variation.
Growth of the analytics. Google Analytics.
You hear that mumbling going on? I'll enter a little bit of after-the-fact commentary. This is Brendan talking about what the listener is no doubt wondering about what's going on. Frank and Brendan are currently reading the backside of the notepad that Marty is perusing, and he's holding it up to his screen. And we can see the other side, so we started to mumble what was written on there to freak him out. And he's really freaked out, and he's turned the he just turned the page over, and he's realised that we were being very silly.
Just making sure there isn't anything incriminating. Is that my address and when I go to sleep? That's all I've got. I haven't got anything else.
It's like reading the other side of Marty's brain, not the bit that he presents, the backside.
The side that no one was ever meant to see.
I'll read you on the backside of the moon. The moon, in this case, is Marty's head.
It's nice to see that we're on the same page, even though we're on the opposite
side. We're not using any of that, right?
I hope not.
We'll see. We'll see if it works. Hey, if the season 3 Bluey can get as meta as it has, then we can.
Yes, you're right, though.
I love it. But, I mean, I'm going to go, I know what's going to happen, fellas. I'm going to go back and watch this episode and go, I missed that, and I missed that, and I missed that. So what were the big hits for me? Like, what an adventure. The music is incredible.
Yes.
It's such a good time. The terriers are amazing. They're guarding the bridge. Like, is that another reference to Billy Goat's Gruff or Trolls or something that I missed?
Like
because
they do sit under the bridge at one point.
It's just like a quest story.
Yeah.
Like in high school, I can remember this sort of thing because all my brothers and sisters, I've got 3 older brothers and sisters and 3 younger brothers and sisters. And having them in the years above me, I saw them do this quest story assignment in like one of the years of English.
Sure.
And there were like things to hit, like you had to have, I don't know, a dragon, and there was one hurdle that the hero overcame, and there were obstacles, and there were fixed ones, like it was a wise old sage, and then a hedge maze, and you could stick to them exactly, or you could do your own thing. But I should just remember them doing it and getting excited to be able to do it. And anyway, that's what I think of when I think of like quest stories, and you've got the hero and they hit the obstacles, and it's just, it works because it's a tried and tested recipe.
Cool.
As discussed by Joseph Campbell in Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Okay, that's around our time to... when Martin started... No, I did that because I think it's funny, but I'm really interested to... Do you actually have a point to make about this guy? Because it sounds interesting.
Basically what you just described.
I know, I razz you
The
up.
guy who researched and figured out that, most myths around the world have a common structure involving the sorts of things that you just mentioned. So that's why it's a hero with 1,000 faces. The stories are told in so many different ways. But ultimately they have, the hero helper, the sage, the, traveling to the other side and then they come back around. So yeah, it's a great book. It's pretty classic. It's a monomyth is the other one.
Is the sage on a stage?
Not usually, no. They're in a forest somewhere.
Yeah.
These days, the sage isn't so much on a stage. They're the green on a screen.
Ah. Oh, I hate how much I loved that. But I think Calypso is the true guide on the side, I
Hell
think.
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, what a good time this episode. Bluey's a really good show, guys.
Yeah. I think after 40-something odd episodes, we can agree to that.
This is our 40th, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Number 40, yeah.
This is our 40th episode.
Hey! Not quite time to raise the bat just yet, but we're getting there.
No, we're getting there.
Oh, now I'm nervous. Oh, we're getting close to the 50.
Don't get out before 50, boys.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, getting a bit...
Well, thank you, Ludo, for another freaking awesome episode of Bluey. Thank you, gentlemen, for another episode of our podcast.
No problems, Brendan.
You're welcome.
And thank you, listener, for joining us here at Aisle 300.
Left of the fake grass.
And if you hit a flamingo, you've gone too far.
For Scotland! For Scotland!
Badoing.
Created and produced by Frank, Brendan and Marty. You can follow the Hammerbarn Project on facebook.com/HammerbarnProj, at HammerbarnProj on Twitter, or Hammerbarn_project on Instagram. Theme featuring Nibblings, Kaylee, Jade, Ashley and Reese, and PA announcements by brother-in-law, me, Josh. Thanks for listening, and remember to get down to Hammerbarn for cheap shovels.